Just start in a minute. Dr. Shivam Dubey will also be joining us today. Um, so yeah, we'll be hearing from him as well. But before that happens, I would just like to welcome you to Mighty Champions Daily Live. And as we do, we'll arrive into the session with a short practice. So that, as we've been doing this, yesterday also, we want to become more aware of the body, of bodily sensations. So I invite you to settle down and just sitting comfortably wherever you are. And gently shake out, your hands, arms, shoulders, legs. Gentle movement, just shaking it out. And then you can let the movement become slightly bigger. So shake the hands, shake the arms, roll the shoulders, move your legs, loosen the jaw. Just letting the body move, shake, do what it feels like doing. Few more seconds. And now just stop completely. So stopping and coming to stillness. And I would like you to feel the difference between movement and stillness. You can notice your heartbeat. Maybe paying attention to the sound of your heart beating. Notice your breathing. How does your breath feel? Noticing any sensations you feel in the body. And then just taking a few deep breaths. Keeping yourself as present as you can with the breaths. Setting an intention for today, for your time here. Setting an intention for your day, or your evening. How do you want the rest of the day to look? Setting an intention for yourself. Perhaps thinking about one quality that you would like to bring in your day. And then slowly and gently opening your eyes. Thanks for practicing together. Yesterday, we spoke about our reactions and how the mind has, these different parts, so to say, that govern different kinds of functions. And we also saw how being reactive is something that we can work with by creating the pause that we spoke about. And today I'd like to speak a little bit about the core beliefs and the rules somewhere that we form, which shape the way we think, we feel, and we behave as well. So the thing about these beliefs or these rules are that some of the strongest rules that could be running our lives, we don't even consciously choose them. Somewhere, they just become part of our identity. So can we identify them and then can we work with them? And picking from yesterday where we spoke about we explored what happens in the brain when we are under pressure. Today it's more about why does a particular situation trigger me in the particular way that it does. Now we all know that we have our personal triggers. So something that say I could be bothered about, you might not be, and vice versa. So then triggers are not universal. There are things that could offend me and do not offend you. So we have, in some respects, due to certain situations, circumstances, belief systems, we've come to have a very personal sort of array of things that feel more emotionally triggering to us than others. So why does that happen? And why in that moment we feel so helpless? That's what we're going to look at some of that now. If we think about even life situations and problems that we could take more seriously than others, to say whether it's say about criticism. Criticism can make one person curious, it can make another person defensive, it can make another person angry, and it can make another person completely shut down. Part of the answer as to why this happens is because we've all learned to believe different things about ourselves. And particularly, we've learned to believe how we are supposed to be. So, um, so in that sense, none of us is born knowing how we should be. Right? Like when we are children or when we interact with children, a child by itself does not have rules like I should not cry, or I should never ask for help, or my worth depends on how much I achieve. These are things we learn. So we could absorb them through observation, maybe through repetition, the approval we get, the disapproval we get. teasing, expectations, norms. And sometimes this message is very explicit. So say, don't cry or be strong, or, you need to score more. But sometimes it's also indirect. So, you can see, as kids, we could have seen someone express vulnerability, and everyone around them becomes uncomfortable. Or we see someone fail and how humiliating that is for them. And, we could see someone working endlessly, constantly, and receive a lot of admiration. So we learn. And that message that we've picked up externally through either what we are directly told or through what we've indirectly picked up by observing others, these become internal rules for us. Now, this message that we receive, when this message is repeated or this message is really strong, we assign some meaning to it. So we make meaning from this message. That becomes a core belief, and that belief leads to an automatic, say, behavior. Now, that behavior again reinforces the belief. So, say, as an example, if the message was be strong, the translation of that as a belief could be needing help is equal to weakness. In our behavior, it could result in suppression, shutdown, extreme self reliance, maybe. And all of these reinforce the original belief. So, behavior then can eventually look like personality. Someone may say, that's just who I am, I'm very independent. But beneath that statement or beneath that belief, it's most likely I learned very early that meeting people was not safe, or people who are needy are not looked well upon. So this personality or this behavior, any behavior, not just um, hurtful ones, even helpful behaviors that we adopt, they come from the messages that we've internalized, turned them into giving them some meaning, uh, created a belief from them, manifested them into behavior, and that same behavior repeatedly keeps reinforcing the belief, and it becomes a cycle leading at times to making this a very core part of who we are, and therefore translating into sort of our personality. Now, there are a few sort of, um, stronger beliefs around socialization, maybe at times, not to sort of gender categorize it, but usually for men, these are stronger than for women. But even for women, we could feel like that. The first being, I should be able to handle this on my own. So when we think like that, or when we are very hard coded on this kind of a belief, I should be able to handle this on my own, what can this produce? We could refuse support from others. We could overfunction. We could isolate ourselves. And then maybe after a point, we could also start holding resentment about having to carry everything. Now, there's nothing wrong with being capable, but the question to ask is, am I choosing self reliance or am I unable to receive support? And that's a very different question. That am I choosing self reliance because of the sake of self reliance, or it's just hard for me to receive support? So, this is one of the important beliefs around how we conduct ourselves or what we could be thinking about ourselves. The second one is showing emotion means losing control. So we could feel It could be difficult for some of us to express ourselves emotionally, honestly, or say what we really feel. And this can lead to emotional shutdown. It can make it difficult for us to name our feelings. There can be numbness. And anger becomes the easiest emotion to express. So, for those of us who could maybe react more with anger, this is something to perhaps think about, that when we show real emotion, does that signify to us that we are losing control? Um, Now, the important thing about anger is that it usually signifies something else. So anger is a secondary emotion. It disguises the real emotion. And so if we don't recognize our fear, if we don't recognize our hurt, shame, or sadness, the alarm system that we spoke about yesterday may may express the only emotion that we've learned is acceptable, which is anger. So it becomes a proxy for emotions that we don't consciously recognize. Third one, again, a very interesting one, is my worth is what I create or what I produce. Now, for some of us, for maybe a lot of us, we could link our identity to productivity. We achieve something, we feel great. And sooner than later, that achievement can disappear into the past. So we need another achievement. And then we need another achievement. So eventually, rest can feel very uncomfortable. And we are not simply working hard, but we are continually trying to prove that we are valuable. So, uh, so then any time when we sort of are not doing well, or any time where, we feel like things didn't go as per plan, the statement to ourselves is not that this thing didn't work. It's more like I'm a failure. And tying, our self-esteem to output, it can lead to overwork, shame at failure, emptiness when idle. So a lot of us can tend to feel that way. And the last one is that, again, it's about anger, which is that anger could be our only acceptable feeling, because anger can feel powerful, fear does not feel powerful, grief does not feel powerful, loneliness, shame, they don't feel powerful. So the mind can convert a vulnerable emotion into anger, because anger could be more compatible with the identity that we've created for ourselves. Um, so these were the four sort of, beliefs that I wanted to touch upon today. Dr. Shivam, are you there with us?
Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah. Would you like
Why
to?
yeah, why is our video not working today?
My video, I think, is working. No?
My video
Can
is
you
not
not see
working.
me?
No, I can't see you. No, nobody's video is working today. I think something is.
Uh,
I think Aditya
can
changed
anyone
something.
else see me? Or I don't know. I see myself on camera.
Yeah, nobody can see anybody, I guess, today.
I think I have a comment which says I can
Yeah.
see you. So I think maybe would you like to just turn off your camera and turn it on back again?
Okay, okay. There is no. Actually, there is no. I'll try to do it I'll come back. Okay, you just continue. I'll come back.
Okay,
One
sure,
minute.
sure, sure. Hmm. Now, yeah. So these four beliefs uh, are something, and these are just four examples which I felt were important. But we could look at anything. We could look at criticism. We could look at um, shame. We could look at, underconfidence, anything that is sort of hard coded in us. is somewhere coming from, something that we believe is true about either us or about life or about, other people, about the world. And the good thing also is that at some point, these rules were useful. They helped us. So, not everything that we've learned is wrong or has come in our way. At some point, they have helped us, which is why we've kept them with us. So, say self reliance can be very useful, emotionally being controlled can be very useful, being ambitious can be very useful, strong strength is useful. The only distinction that we could make, or we should perhaps be making, is that we can use all of these as adaptive qualities rather than making them into rigid rules. So, for example, I can handle things myself is healthy. I must handle everything myself is a bit limiting. I don't fall apart under pressure can be strength. I'm never allowed to show something, that could hurt me is more isolating. So rather than looking at traits as either good or bad, um, a better way to look at traits or beliefs are, do I have a choice in them? And that's a real measure of psychological flexibility. Because within that belief, if I can be adaptive, if I can use that in a healthy way to help myself in a situation, then it's great. But having them as rigid rules we live by, where we think we can't bend, and if we've not been able to, measure up to that standard or sort of keep our promise in that sense, then they could really be limiting to our growth and to our well-being. So so yeah, like even thinking for yourself, what you could do at some point as an exercise is that maybe think about different areas, think about the relationships. Now, what are my beliefs about relationships? So for some people, their beliefs could be relationships are challenging, or relationships need a lot of sacrifice, um, or relationships, become difficult after a few years of, say, being together with someone. These are our personal beliefs. They are not necessarily true. In fact, they are not true. So that's a good checklist to have, and that's a good way to measure yourself on. Firstly, am I being adaptive? Am I being flexible? And secondly, really believing that this is my personal belief, this is not a fact. A fact is something that happens. A core belief is an interpretation that has been repeated enough so that it starts feeling like reality. I think Dr. Shivam is back. Is your camera on now?
Yeah, there's a problem. So you continue, Nidhi, today because there is
All
a
right.
problem with the camera.
Sure,
Thank
sure. Okay, okay. Yeah. So as I was saying, a core belief is just an interpretation. And therefore, when we think about it like that, it can at times also, create some flexibility in our minds that maybe what I'm thinking about or what I'm holding so tightly is just my way of looking at something. And there's a teacher, I don't know who sorry, I forget to, but he said that you're always a little bit wrong. And that's such a good sort of reminder for all of us in all kinds of situations that we are all always a little bit wrong about whatever we believe in. So um so yeah, just like summing that up about beliefs, if you want to practice that, take any area of your life, whether it's work, it's relationships, it's life itself, it's challenges, it's parenting. Write down what you believe about that and see if you can be flexible, one. And also see if you are treating it more like a fact than your own interpretation, because the fact is that our beliefs are personal, they are not universal, and they are not necessarily true. So, the other thing about beliefs is that they're difficult for us to see, some of them, And they could be difficult at times to point out. Now, when we behave in a certain way or when we think in a certain way, we are not thinking, I currently hold the belief that vulnerability is dangerous, right? We instead just think, I just don't like talking about things, or I prefer to deal with things myself, or I don't like emotional conversations. I don't need them. Now, it can be useful then to dig deeper, but the reason why we are not able to see our beliefs for what they are, um, is because they become so familiar to us. And familiar to the point that sometimes it could also result in righteousness, which is dangerous to have, because we could, be so blind to our personal beliefs that we could make, the honest mistake of thinking that I am doing the right thing. And that's where self-awareness matters so much. It becomes so important because we can't question a rule we don't know we are following, right? If we don't become aware of it, if we don't see it for what it is, how can we ever challenge it, or question it, or see it for what it is? Now, a core belief can also become a self fulfilling cycle, which can again reinforce it even more and then make it even stronger in us. So, say if picking one, say, the belief is I can't rely on anyone. So you don't ask for help. Now, because you don't ask for help, people don't get as many opportunities to support you. So you end up doing everything yourself. You're carrying maybe all the weight alone. And then you feel exhausted. And then what do you control? What do you conclude? See, I can't really rely on anyone. And you see how that creates kind of a vicious circle, because the belief, it created the behavior. Our behavior gave us the evidence, and the evidence strengthened the belief, and thus the cycle continues. So most of these beliefs that we hold strongly and they play out in our behaviors, they are self-sustaining cycles. And changing a belief, therefore, can take some work, but this work will also involve or require changing our behavior. We can't think ourselves out of an old rule. So we need to behave differently long enough to give our brain new evidence. Brain needs evidence. If we lie to our brain is not stupid. It's going to detect it. It's going to tell you that you're lying. I don't believe you. So our behavior has to reflect that changed belief. And by repeating that behavior long enough is when the brain will finally start trusting you with that new way of thinking. We could be holding on to something for years, decades of our lives. And yeah, while it's possible to drop it like a pin, for many of us, it might need more effort. And that effort translates to change in behavior. So a good question then to ask ourselves is, what does this belief make me do? And that can be very revealing. So if I'm taking the belief of, say, I must always be strong, how does it manifest in my behavior? Or what does this belief make me do? Things it makes me do is I don't ask for help. Um, I don't admit uncertainty. I hide distress. I at times become resentful. I I want to be strong, or I am a strong person, or I deal with things, I can deal with strength, is again different from I must always be strong. It does not have flexibility enough. So a statement like I must always be strong will mean that I will not ask for help, and I will maybe then also become resentful, or I will not admit uncertainty. So these are the behaviors that I will display if I am believing or holding that belief. And again, if my belief is that my worth comes from my achievement, how will it show in my behavior? I will overwork. I might struggle to rest. I can interpret my mistakes personally. So maybe one more example: if I believe that conflict means weakness, what's going to happen? I will avoid difficult conversations until it really goes out of hand, or until resentment builds. So our beliefs can become visible through their consequences, and how we show them or how we display them in our behaviors. But that's a good thing, a good practice to perhaps get into and check for yourself. This belief that I hold, am I flexible with it? Is it true? What behaviors do I show because of this? Now, why we are talking about belief so much, and why we are, doing this module on self awareness and talking about self awareness in such great detail, is because these rules can be rewritten, which is the whole point, right? We can, with practice, we can, with some work, change our beliefs, because these patterns were learned. We didn't come with them. And what was learned can also be unlearned with the right tools. So, yeah, um, say a way to do that. If you come down to, say, tightly held beliefs, the example that we're talking about, that I must be strong at all times. Maybe a new reframing could be, I value independence, but I also know that support is wise, or what I accomplish matters, but my worth is not measured by my output, or I can experience anger without ignoring what lies underneath my anger. So we can introduce flexibility, and we can make those beliefs more helpful for us, so they don't result in unhelpful behaviors, or behaviors that can come in the way, limit us. Um, that's the theory I wanted to talk about. Dr. Shivam, is there a practice that you'd like to share with everyone?
Yes, hello everyone. I hope you are all doing well, and I'm so delighted to see everyone here. So, all these core beliefs that Nidhi has talked about today, these are, stored in our brain, in our nervous system, unknowingly. While we have been growing up, we stored them in our nervous system. And now lot of things that happen in our lives are happening automatically from these core beliefs which we have stored. I would like you guys to think about our brain and nervous system like as an instrument. Like this body that we have is like an instrument that we are using to live this life, right? And this instrument, the brain, has over the time stored and learned all kinds of things. If we have lived in a difficult relationship, or if we have gone through few things, or we have done few things in our lives which do not match with our core value, sometimes they are, if they are stored, they will automatically happen, automatically change your decisions, your behaviors. We won't even know. So how do we practice everything that Nidhi just talked about, the beliefs and all that? How do we practice it? This is a very important thing, that we practice it. If we don't practice it, then although listening to it is will also influence, the way we do things, but practice is important. Another very important thing that is I'm seeing in my patients and happening lately is that we are using this nervous system a lot lately. The nervous system that we use to wake up in the morning, live our lives, do our daily job, and then, take care of our family. It's absorbing a lot of things, that is happening in our lives. And if we do not have a nervous system reset or regulation practice, then it's it accumulates every single day. And if we do not have enough nervous system reset and regulation, then it could later lead to allostatic load, which could later cause problems. And problems are not just mind problems, you can have physical problems. Psychosomatic problems could also happen, like migraine or I mean, even, chronic health problems, because your nervous system is not getting enough time or enough, relaxation, regulation. So it's very important for us to practice some exercise or something for our mind, like we do for our body, you know, like we do cardio and other things recommended by WHO for our heart. Similarly, we need to practice something for our mind also. So I would like you guys to do a little practice with me, and we will try to, do it as much possible every day, so that we can, reset our nervous system for the day, or for, whatever we have accumulated. We have to try to reset it, right? So wherever you are, just sit down comfortably, and put your hand on the one hand on the chest, and put another hand on your belly. Why are we doing this? Because this is how we will become close to our breath. We can feel our breath. You can see your chest and your belly movements, and that will bring you close as possible to your breath, because you can feel the breath going inside your lungs and coming out. And at the same time, you can admire the beauty of life. The life is going in through your nostrils and nose to your lungs, and coming out automatically. This life is flowing through you. Now, once you have settled in and you can see the pace of your breath, how your chest and belly are moving, you're relaxed, just letting it do not change anything. This actually, that when you do that and you feel the breath, you will see it will settle down. The breath has a strong relationship with your nervous system. Now I would like you guys to look into your mind. Does your mind have any thoughts or image? Often when we look into our mind, there is no thoughts or no image. It goes blank. But now notice, do you have any thought or image? If there is a thought or image, Did you think this or it came automatically from your brain? How about the next thought or image? Did you think this thought or it came automatically? Just watch this thought or image if it is there. Images and thoughts will come into your mind, come and go, and you're just watching it, not reacting to it. Please understand that your brain is like an instrument producing thoughts and images based on your experiences, what's going in your life automatically. Oftentimes, you're not even thinking, and these thoughts will come and do whatever based on your experiences. But if you watch them, if you watch your mind, you will see that thoughts will stop, settle down, and if you don't react to your thoughts, they will become less intense, less strong, because your brain is producing all these thoughts, running commentary. If a thought is bad, you will feel bad. If a thought is good, you will feel good. But if you watch these thoughts, you are not at the mercy of this brain which has learned all these things and producing these thoughts. You're not at the mercy of those. You can watch them and see that you did not think it. Because when you think, you will think positive. When you think, you will think kindly. When you will think, you will be forgiving to you and yourself. When you think, it will be full of love and care for everyone. But your thoughts may give you some ideas, may ask you to be greedy, may ask you to be jealous, may ask you to do certain things which may not match with you, because true you wants peace, true you wants comfort, true you wants relaxation, true you wants to care, wants to give, true you wants to love, let it go. But this brain does not. This instrument automatically, when your brain thinks automatically, it's in protective mode, safety mode, to deal with this world full of negativity. This brain will give you ideas which may not align with true you, true self. And this conflict between true you and the brain produce thoughts. This conflict may slowly erode you or make you feel uncomfortable or not satisfied with your life. You may do everything in your day but still may not be satisfied because true you is not manifested. So, my dear friends, get in the habit of awakening this true you, and you can easily do that by just looking at your mind. And understand this brain, this body is an instrument which need to be looked at. This instrument does not own you. You own this instrument. If you have a car, you're driving a car, you own a car, and car has a problem, you don't say that I have a problem. Your car has a problem, the instrument you own. Similarly, this body and brain is your instrument you're using to live this life. If you care for it, if you watch it, if you look at it, it will behave, it will do better. Now I'll ask you again to pay attention to your breath. See how it's going. Now gradually you can take your hands off and put them in your lap. And say with me, I will be kind to myself. I will try to love myself. I'll try to let go and forgive myself and others. And I wish and pray that the leaders of this world will practice mindfulness, positivity, kindness, care when they take decisions today to help the whole world, humans and animals and all the life on this earth. And now I'll gradually open my eyes. I would really like to know if anybody has questions about this, what I talked about. What do you guys think about this instrument, the brain instrument you're using? Does anybody has any comment? I hope you're not sleeping. So we would love to, do this practice, and we, through the MCD live, we would love to have people practice nervous system reset and regulation every day. Right, Nidhi? Nidhi, are you there? Okay. Yes. So happy to see Dr. Harshini, Georgina, Georgiana, Joanna, Dr. Joanna Edwards. Oh, my long-term friend. I can, what is, she just sent a message. It was a very good practice. Thank you. And Linu. Hi Linu, how are you? Very nice. Okay. So with that practice, we can end this session. Thank you everyone for coming. Okay. Have a nice and blessed day.